te mea paro, kia ora ki tēnā o tātou, kia mahia te rua ki, kia toi te kupu, toi te mana, toi te aroha, toi te reo Māori, kia tuturu, ka whakahawa, kia tina, ue, taiki.
Thank you, everybody. Right. Welcome to this audit and risk committee. Welcome, councillors, members of the committee, staff. Thank you. Right. Are there any, first item on the agenda is any conflicts of interest for decisions? Need to be declared. None noted. Are there any apologies?
Councillor Holmes.
Councillor Holmes, would you like to move?
I will.
Well, seconder. Thank you, Councillor Beats. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Public forum. Are there any items for public forum, Mr. Chief Executive? Thank you. Are there any items not on the agenda? No. Just there is an item that was circulated that we'll discuss after the meeting rather than as part of the meeting. Thank you. Right. So first item 5.1, the minutes of the previous meeting held 21st of May, taken as read. Are there any corrections? If we can move that we receive the minutes of Councillor Betts, second Councillor Stella. Any discussion? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Right, we've got some presentations on our service delivery contracts. Take the report as read. Thank you, Corin.
Chair, and we'll Sarah from Aotearoa
Yep.
to present first.
Thank you, Sarah. Welcome.
Kia ora, my apologies. My voice is strained. I have a cold at the moment, hence I'm wearing a mask to save you all from my germs. It's been exciting but challenging here at Aotearoa. First off, you'll note from my financials that our deficit for the year is much more than we had budgeted for. That is a couple of things taken into consideration. The loss of the South Waitanapa District Council funding makes it really clear how much we do rely on that funding. And the general retail space and the sort of depressed economy. Our board has been very forward-thinking in this, very much acknowledging that we can't keep eating into our reserves, so they, along with staff, are doing a big push to diversify and broaden the base of support financially that Aotearoa gets, and that's our big focus in the next few months. So hopefully you should see some exciting announcements coming from Aotearoa around that space. Our goal is to ensure that while we may have budgeted for a deficit for this coming financial year, that we will do everything in our power to make sure that that is actually not a reality. We have a strong faith in our community and Aotearoa's ability to deliver to that community, and the very important work that we do for the people of Masterton and the people of the Wairarapa. As you'll also see from the financials, that where we have been able to control our spending, we have controlled our spending. We run a very tight ship when you compare it to other museums and galleries of our scale. So that's why we're focusing on growth rather than cuts, because we firmly believe in the ambitions of the culture and heritage sector of Masterton and the Wairarapa. And as soon as we start compromising those ambitions and goals, we compromise the ways in which the people of Masterton feel connected to their heritage, to their taonga and to their art. So we're very focused on growth rather than cuts. For our key result areas, we had a really, as you can see, great period of collecting this last quarter, including some two rather interesting roof shingles, which talks about the built history of the Wairarapa, particularly Masterton. We did deaccession, just something that was gifted to the collection, but then that decision was reversed. So on the books, we've deaccessioned it. And we've also accepted some items, including things like stone flags, obsidian, and as well as a really exciting addition to the collection of Natasha Ratuva's work, Ocean in My Hair, from her rather remarkable exhibition. We also have been really excited to work in this quarter with the team who was putting together the events to mark the gifting back of the return of the Wairarapa Moana to its people, in which portraits of tipuna from that are in our care went to Papawai. It was a really magical day and really important. I think that Aratoi was there showing the ways in which our care for this taonga connects them to the people who live today and the people of the future. Also had an amazing opportunity to work with Rangitane and Ngāti Kahanunu to repatriate with cobblestones Waka Tiwai, which has been at Aratoi for the last 20 years on behalf of cobblestones. Through research that our collection curator did and through connections with the whānau who brought the waka to the Wairarapa, it was just decisions were made amongst iwi and amongst museums to return Waka Tiwai to Pātea, to South Taranaki. It was a really great relationship between us and we could not have done it without our iwi. They were incredibly strong in their support and the mahi that they put into that, and it was really special to watch that taonga return to its home. I know Robin will attest to the fact that it's a pretty incredible day. Also, incredibly excitingly, we launched our collection online. It's a one way that we can provide broader and better access to our taonga. It's a one site where you can see almost everything that's in our collection. It does not include, at this stage, loans to our collection, and most of the taonga is not on there for cultural reasons. But we do have the ability, should whānau, should iwi decide that those objects should be put on our collection online in the future. The beauty of the system that we launched is that it's a sort of one-click thing, so they can all be published straight away. It also means that we can have a dialogue with people about our collection, so people can bring more information to us about taonga that's in our collection. They can learn stories, have a bit more, so many times in museums it's about not knowing what's there. We want it to be that everyone has the ability to know what's there, to engage with their history, and hopefully we will learn as much as they will about these incredible objects we care for. Some really great exhibitions. I think a highlight of the program is definitely In Recognition, which showcased objects from the collection that were given or gifted or presented to the people of Wairarapa, Masterton, in recognition of a service or event or a skill. And I think Thresholds in our main gallery was a really great example of the ways in which our collection, as well as significant loans, can highlight how incredible contemporary art practice is in Aotearoa and in the Wairarapa. We, according to all of our KPIs for the financial year, for the vast majority of them, we've met them or exceeded them. In self-generated revenue, there was a little inconsistency with what we've been measured against, but I know that Corin has a couple of things to say about that after I finish talking. Yes, it is challenging, but we rise to challenges at Aratoi. We've got a great team who are really excited to push forward what we do, and I really want to take this opportunity to thank the Masterton District Council for their ongoing commitment to Aratoi and to culture and heritage in Masterton. I think it's one of the things that we can really be proud of here in Masterton, the way in which we really showcase and highlight the arts, and the fact that we currently on display at the moment have an exhibition with a Turner Prize nominated artist who of all the galleries in Aotearoa she could show in is showing at Aratoi. Really shows how not only on a national but an international scale, Aratoi is really the place to be. So thank you for all the work that you do to ensure that the people of Masterton, the people of Wairarapa and the people of New Zealand really see how great the culture and heritage is in this place. So thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you, Councillor Betts.
Thanks, Sarah. Just a question because I'm a bit confused. On page 1 of your report, the third bullet point says funding of 20k was received from Friends of Aotearoa, which is just half of what was budgeted. But in the balance sheet, it actually says the actual budget was 40 and you received 42
I sent out, a couple of weeks ago, I sent through an updated version of that that rectified that, so I'm afraid you must still have an old version of the report.
So the balance sheet is right?
The balance sheet is right.
Well, that's good news, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, thank you.
The other way? Yeah. Councillor?
Thank you, Sarah, for your report and great work that your team's doing. You talked about the deficit, and you kind of said we missed a piece of council funding there that you would normally rely on. And then, you're speaking very positively that you're going to rectify that through a growth-focused approach as opposed to cutting stuff. Why don't you talk to us a little more about what that growth-focused approach will look like and how that might generate the gap in funding?
So a lot of it is, it's a two-pronged, focusing on diversifying our corporate sponsorship. At the moment we've had a smaller group of corporate sponsors. We're trying to grow that more by getting a little bit less from a lot more people, including exclusive opportunities. Like we're discussing with you sponsors the naming rights of some of their gallery spaces, which part of that is getting them into a 3-year relationship with us. We all know a 3-year relationship means that there's more stability from a planning perspective, and it means that we can sort of promise and deliver more for them. We're also focusing on a quite large-scale fundraising evening in the sort of autumn months of next year. We're just in the starting process of organising now. That's more focused on getting those reserves back to where they were last year.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Thank you. Sarah, Corin, you've got a couple of comments.
Just for the awareness committee. So Sarah and I have begun work on looking at the key result areas, and the next audit and risk will bring a paper with some suggestions about moving some of those. So we've talked about areas where we think we can increase them, and so we'll bring that back to the committee for approval.
All right, thank you for that.
And also just to note, I had the pleasure of attending the opening of the new exhibitions last Friday night, which was really lovely to attend, and good to see a good number of the community out there on quite a cold night. My particular favourite is the knitted yum cha, which is a really cool exhibition, and I'd encourage everybody to go down to Aotearoa and have a look at those exhibitions.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Discussion?
Oh, discussion? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. It's awesome that you're looking at opportunities to grow revenue. I'm just a little frustrated that this was a conversation that was had probably 8 years ago with the then chair about exploring other sponsorship opportunities, naming rights for galleries and extending the umbrella of possible sponsors in the community. And to me that this work now is reactive, whereas it could have been proactive, and the gallery might be in a stronger position. So I think that's just something I'd like to bring up, because we need to not be trying to fix things. We should be working proactively ahead so that community groups that we support in Masterton don't get to that stage. It's a reactive solution rather than a proactive one, but I'm sure you'll do really well.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the space in which we're wanting to work. Wayne, the chair of our board, has been in the role for a year. I've been in my role for 2 years, and we're definitely thinking for future generations of people in Masterton and ensuring that we have those wide and diverse relationships.
It's just a shame that these discussions were over 8 years ago and you've got to pick up the slack. Yeah, so good on you, and I'm sure you'll put things in place for the future.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Councillor Goodwin.
Yeah, I suppose it just raises the issue for us that issues do come back up many years ago, and the question is, how can I say, just a question later in the day, sometimes doesn't follow that up, and we find ourselves a decade later with no progress. So just want to make that comment.
Thank you. I will note that. Can I just make a comment on that? The way to address that, if you think there is an issue, right? When at the moment the recommendations we've received for the report, you can also then make a recommendation if you think something needs to be followed up. There's a recommendation to council that X, Y, and Z happens. Right? That's what I would anticipate if a member of the committee has a concern. That would be the appropriate way to take it forward rather than just proceeding with the report.
Well, would it be appropriate then to move that the committee wants to work with our employees of ways of, to ensure their revenue is growing?
I think just to that, Corin works very closely with Sarah and the team at Masterton to look at opportunities for incremental revenue, so I think that should be left to officers to pursue, and I think it's working well at the moment.
Okay, but I suppose what we're hearing is that we're looking forward to the detail.
So I guess to the point in my earlier comment in terms of Sarah and I looking at the key result areas, right? Because the key result areas are council's expectation of Aotearoa, and there are things in there around the level of funding that happens from sources other than council funding, etc. So when we bring that back for consideration, you'll see some suggested movement there. Which will address some of that conversation. Our intention is that it is a sustainable figure. We don't want to set ourselves up to fail, but we are in conversation about how we reflect and address some of those things.
Yeah, so just in terms of procedure things for that, what I was hearing, right, is that you will bring back some recommendations. Now the question I have to the Chief Executive, right, is does the committee actually have delegated authority to receive it as a recommendation to council that these become the KPIs? You might want to consider that as part of the, okay, just in terms of if they're, right, because I see the role of this committee, right, correct me if I'm wrong, we can talk about later, is actually just to monitor performance, right, that's, and to identify areas of concern and risk, okay, and then recommend. We actually don't have any authority to actually intervene, and that then was probably recommendation to council. That's how I would see the process working. Okay. All right, thank you. I think we've got Chloe next. If you
Yes, we've got Chloe from Nuku Order now.
Thank you. Thank you, Chloe.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, kia ora koutou ko Chloe Toku Ingoa. So my name's Chloe, I'm Partnership Manager Waiata for Nuku Ora. I've recently returned to Nuku Ora after maternity leave, so in June, so I've only been back a little bit, so don't ask me to any hard questions. So yeah, I'd just really like to thank the Council for your continued support on behalf of Nuku Ora. We thank you for the previous multi-year funding and are very grateful for your agreed investment for the next 3 years. Just to note, so this is the final 6-month report under the previous partnership agreement, so our future reports will look a bit different. So while we now have got 4 dedicated staff operating out of our Masterton office, so there's Andrea Jackson, Antonia Thompson, so the 2 AJs who you guys know, and then we've recently appointed Reese Robertson in our green construction space there, and then there's myself as well, so I'm part-time. But it's also important to recognise that our whole organisation is dedicated to our region as well. The report highlights many of the activities that we've been delivering or facilitating in the Wairarapa and Masterton district over the last 6 months. But I just wanted to take this opportunity to highlight some of the awesome mahi we've been doing. So yeah, the things that I've sort of picked out of the report that I thought were just so awesome. A real highlight for me in the past 6 months, it was the Senior Regional Games. So it was held in Masterton at Trust House Rec Centre. We had 78 kaumātua participate in various activities. So a previous success from last year, there was pickleball started up from it, which is awesome, and it's still going strong. This year, some successes were, there's been like a walking league start up, so a bit of a trial for hockey there. I believe netball we're looking at it as well. Our accredited community strength and balance providers, they've reported that their participation numbers have grown as well, which is really, really cool. So it's such a cool event. We're going to continue to grow it and adapt it to suit our community's needs. Tūmanawa, so like most funders, and as you guys know, always well oversubscribed in the last financial year, but despite this, it was really good to see Masterton District Council in particular put in some applications there, and I believe we gave out about 15k, which is really cool. So around the Play Streets initiative, the Play trailer, so the equipment was updated there, and then some money towards the migrant Tamariki water play project in collaboration with Neighbourhood Support. A bit of the the numbers with the oversubscription, so about $1.42 million fund that we managed, we had $2.54 million worth of applications, so it's always a tricky area. In terms of our RSOs, so our regional sporting organisations, we continue to meet once a month with them. The purpose of these meetings are just to share insights and knowledge of the sector, to learn from one another, see what issues have arisen, and what opportunities there are as well. It's really important that the RSOs work together and have a good relationship to provide the best experience to our community. The example of them working together, so in the last 6 months, Andrea worked with them to collectively work together to submit on the 10-year RTP for MDC, which is awesome to see. Nuka Ora, we've also completed a governance review for Hoki Wairarapa. There was a really high need for this after several resignations from the board. The report's been shared and presented back to Hoki Wairarapa just recently. Yeah, once again, just really thank you for your time today and your continued support for our sport and recreation centre.
Thank you. Any questions of Chloe? Question?
Just on, and I'm sorry if I've missed it somewhere else, you mentioned you've recently published 2 reports on sports fields and indoor court provisions for councillors. Have we got a copy of that?
I believe you should do, and then you're also part of the steering group as well, so Lily leads that. Yeah.
Could I get a copy of that? I just missed it.
Yep, so they'll be sitting with the facilities team, but we can make those available.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, Chloe. For that governance review for hockey, do you approach them or do they approach you?
They approached us, I believe, yeah.
Okay, so they know that the service is available, they go to you and support.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, thank you.
Chloe, on page 21, when you're talking about the Sport New Zealand Insights tool, and you're talking about the 4 areas that have got the lowest percentage of people active, are those areas based, because when you talk about Masterton Central, Majoro Park, Douglas Park and so itself, are they based on schools or on areas? How are those areas defined?
I'm not too certain on that, but I'll get back to you. That's all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Peets.
Thanks, Chloe. Some great work there. Good to see too that it seems to be that you're targeting Masterton more, which is what we were really keen to focus on, which is fantastic. I just want to ask a question about the Women and Girls event which you ran, which is a great initiative. And I just wondered, do you have any further funding applications out for that program? And also, what sort of money are you looking for that?
Yeah, Andrea knows all the details into that one. I'll get her to contact you if that's all right.
That'd be great. Yeah. Because I see that you weren't successful with the first application.
Yeah.
So I'd just like to find out a bit more about that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any discussion on the report? Any further comments? Corin, in terms of, thank you very much, Chloe.
Thank you.
So if we go back to the recommendation, and I have a move for the recommendation, Councillor Peets, seconded Councillor Green. No further discussion, all those in favour please say aye. Aye. It's carried. And that next item is the Destination Wairarapa report. Thanks, Anna.
Sorry.
You right to walk?
Yep, I'll get there eventually. If you're wondering what this is all about, 2 months ago I was playing netball in Colombo Courts Saturday morning, had an accident and broke my hip and my arm. But here I am, standing, it's all good, the sun is shining. I probably won't be playing netball again. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and speak to you today. And look, this year's been really challenging for tourism. As you all know, we're heavily impacted by what happens in Wellington, the Wellington region. And I guess this year's been kind of a game of two halves. We started on the back of COVID very strong, and we had international tourists coming through during the FIFA World Cup, and it felt good, it felt positive. And then we had the elections, and Wellington got nervous, and rightfully so. Passed through the election, into the new year, into winter now, and I think the tally is about 6,000 people in Wellington have lost jobs, and there is more to come. And it's not just from central government, there's other areas as well. Nationally, New Zealand is doing it tough. We all know that. Wellington and Wairarapa in particular are doing it tougher, and there is data to support that. Recently we had Brad Olsen in the region who was attending the Business Wairarapa Business Summit, and he talked about Wellington region and Wairarapa doing it tough, and that's sort of the catchphrase is survive for 25 for the moment. It sounds very flippant to have a saying that rhymes when people are doing it so tough. But it is true, and there are stats that prove that tourism spending of people in Wellington is down when they're visiting other regions. That is by 6.4%. Auckland is also down by only 2%, and nationally it's 3%. As we're such a major market, so roughly 80% of our visitors come from Wellington, this affects us hugely as well. Visitation, the numbers are coming, but they're not staying, and they're not spending what we'd like them to. But the positive, we've got to take something positive out of this, is that they are coming. The events like the Festival of Christmas recently, an event that is accessible to many people, whether they have $5 or $500 or $5 million in their pocket, they can still come and have a nice time with their family, with their friends, whether they stay over or they don't. At least they're coming to the region and they're seeing what we have on offer, and they're enjoying it. And we take heart from that, and we hope that, certainly in all of our marketing and promotion, that when they do have a little more to spend, when they're ready, they'll continue to come and spend in our region. In terms of financials of this year, just being, we came in just above net profit budget. Once the auditor has been through it and moved all the bits and pieces that they need to, it'll no doubt go down to our budget, which was less than, but that's obviously breaking even. So I feel very confident that our team, considering we kept in line with all of our financials, and when we have our independent auditor come through, they'll find exactly the same thing. One of the most pleasing projects that came out of this is, of course, the Dark Sky project, which is on our end has now completed. We've had wonderful opportunity within the region, within business, with iwi, to talk about the opportunity that the Dark Sky Reserve brings to this region. And it's so great that Masterton is continuing to fly the flag and apply for accreditation to increase the size of the reserve. There's so much opportunity. In fact, today, Tourism New Zealand is launching a massive international PR campaign around the opportunities for tourists to come to New Zealand to experience dark sky and food and beverage. And what do we have strong in this area? Dark sky and food and beverage. And we will feature strongly in that international campaign. And we will make sure that domestically, soon after, we will be following in their footsteps, making sure that people understand what we have on offer in the dark sky and food and beverage area. Secondly, the website. This was a project that was fundamental to us. Websites, digital is huge when you're marketing anything. We needed to make sure we got it right. We didn't have the budget other RTOs have in order to spend in this area, and it has been launched. It's been well received by customers, consumers, public members alike. We now look as good as, if not better, than others in the area. We're pretty stoked with that. Thank you very much, and open to any questions.
Any questions? Madam Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Linda. I must say the report we gave on the dark sky was pretty extensive. But I want to have a look at page 2 of your report and just ask, the number of establishments are 32.
This is accommodation?
Yeah,
Yes.
well, I think it's accommodation.
Yes.
Are there any that aren't recorded?
Yes, there are a number. This is what's called commercial accommodation. So those people opt into providing information to an independent company and report on their accommodation stats. Previously, it used to be Stats New Zealand used to force people, whoever was involved in commercial accommodation, to provide their data. It's not a requirement anymore. So although it's great to have data, I guess the key thing is to look at the trends, because it's not necessarily everyone who's involved in tourism or has accommodation. It doesn't include the peer-to-peer, so anything Airbnb or Book a Batch or anything like that is not in there. It's purely accommodation, so motels, hotels, etc. The bigger players.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Goodwin.
Hi, Anna.
Hi.
My query is a bit along the same lines, and I wonder, have they ever surveyed visitors, 80% coming from Wellington? We know various destinations, Bolchford, Bruce, etc., events, but that's only actually a small number in some respects. Do we know anything about the rest? Why they come here?
Why they come? Oh, that's if you have a look at the destination management plan, the Wairarapa destination management plan. That's not a plan for destination Wairarapa. It's the one that we completed in 2021. Absolutely, there is demand data which was undertaken, thankfully, to Henley funding with Colmar Brunton, which I think they call Kentar now. So that data, why are people coming here? Absolutely, that's been recorded.
So is that on your website?
Yes, yes. That is. If you look under About Us, if it's not there, then I'll be very happy to send you a copy of that.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Craig.
Anna, thank you very much for your report. Good detail, real good detail. Thank you very much. I see in here that Carlton District Council is going to be dragging the chain on their funding. And you're awaiting confirmation. How's that looking?
And from what I understand, it's looking positive. Until it's signed off.
September.
Yes, September, I think it's 17th or 18th that they'll sign it off. It's sitting there, it's all been drafted, it falls in line with exactly with what has been agreed to previously with our MOU. It just hasn't had the ink on a piece of paper, from my understanding.
Must be quite disappointing though.
Yeah, of course. However, what I've heard from the officers at Carlton District Council is they don't feel there's a need for Destination Wairarapa to be worried, so I can only go by what they are telling me.
Councillor
Thank you for your report, Anna, and like Councillor Bowyer, I appreciated that, what I feel is a lot more detail this time around. So thank you for that. And it seems, and I could be wrong, but it seems like you're targeting more businesses directly in terms of their product and product development. Is that the case, or is it just the reporting of it?
I think that was really because of the Dark Sky project. The need, that was Chrissy Cummings, who's a product development manager. She leaves from us, leaves at the end of this week, unfortunately. So that was around utilising or leveraging the Dark Sky Reserve to create tourism product so that we derive an economic benefit from selling that product. It achieved a great deal, as you would have seen with businesses, but that is not, as an RTO, our reason for being, and so we're all about the marketing, and that will be what it will look like going forward.
Okay, so that targeting of individual businesses will now not take place?
Yes, yes. We'll absolutely support and encourage and that sort of thing, but I love to do more in the product development, but that's no longer going to happen.
Yeah, I'm just sort of wondering, given the market downturn for tourism,
Yeah.
is that an avenue we can push until that general tourism space starts to flourish a bit more?
Yeah, the good thing about product development is so making sure more businesses, we did a lot of work, and we will continue with the marketing, particularly with things like people like Tom Supples, who have just opened, in the last 12 months, maybe 18 months. So they're venturing more into the tourism world. And so that's where we help them identify areas that they could set up a cycling tour. We can help them with expertise from our knowledge with other cycling tours and businesses. And it means that they can offer a greater offering, not just to locals, but people coming here, and they'll spend more money in the region. So more money going to Tom Cycles means that he's paying for more staff. It flows through into the economy, and we want more of that. It helps us become more resilient. I'd like to see more product development made, but sometimes you've just got to cut the costs.
But what I'm hearing is that you can still work with some individual businesses, but it's more in that marketing space as opposed to product development.
Yes, because now I have 1.8 FTEs focused. That's what I have for marketing and promotion. Absolutely, that's what we'll be doing. We just won't be spending that time doing the business development.
Do you see that as a gap in our economy?
Yes, and I'd like to see it filled, whether it's by us, whether it's Wellington NZ as the economic development provider. I think there is a gap there.
Yeah, hi Anna, sorry to hear about your accident.
Getting there.
Last time you came and presented to us, we spoke at length about operating costs and a difficult market, and I just wondered whether you were looking at new premises or relocation. Is that progressing any further?
It is in progress now, but I can't say too much.
Watch the space?
Yeah, watch the space.
And just a couple of other things. Apropos Sarah's discussion about not getting some council funding, and also noting that Carterton District Council is a 2-year agreement, whereas South and Masterton are 3-year agreements. I just hope that you're cognizant of that and don't fall into the same trap, just in case.
Yes, my understanding with them, the reason why they did the 2-year is they were lining up with the Warwick Economic Development Strategy, the WEDS funding, and the LTP. So they were lining up with that as opposed to what we were traditionally timeframes we were doing.
Interesting, because we're all involved with the Economic Development Strategy and WEDS. And the other thing I was going to say, it's interesting to note though too that international and domestic spending was up slightly nationally.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask that question, but it's because we're vulnerable to Wellington, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we were still, the spend was there, but then we've got to look at inflation. I didn't want to highlight that as a bright spot, given that the visitation, the accommodation was so low. I think we've got to look at the next round of data to understand a bit more. It's very difficult when it's so retrospective, so many months back, and we only get it by TA, it's annual rolling sum, and for the region we can get it months, so it's hard to pinpoint where the activity is actually going on at any given time.
Thank you.
Councillor Scott.
Thanks, Anna. An amazing website, wildly charming, a little bit like Mr. Goodwin. I like the fire app, but wildly charming. It's a great website, well done. Just around, obviously, the current climate with things looking a little tough and survive to 25, what have we got in plan, I guess, for around our marketing
Yeah.
for the region?
Yes.
Around summer, given that it's going to be our peak time to make some dough. What have we got planned?
So in about
to
2
get
weeks'
those people
time, our operators will receive some collateral and some bits and pieces that they can use to help push a campaign that we're coming out shortly. So our marketing manager will be out with that very soon. It's named Wairarapa is Looking Up, and it's all around the dark sky, but also a little nod to hopefully things improving, the sun is shining.
Awesome, thank you.
That's great.
Thank you. Any more questions for Anna? Any comments? Councillor Tim and Councillor Gray?
I've asked you heaps of questions about your website over the years. It's been looking at, it's amazing. I think the way it's set up is beautifully structured. If I was coming to this region, I know I'd use it. The way just everything about it, like if you look at, if anyone hasn't looked at the see and do section, it's just amazing the way you're separated with the seasons, everything's stated.
Can I ask you to also click on the map, which is, if you go down and click on the map, it's very cool because you'll see all the different operators, including, you've got a picture if you're going hiking up into the hills and some of the spots to check out. It's not just about business, it's about key things that you can do and see in the region, and it shows people physically where it is on the map.
Yeah, it's just, it's good.
Thank you.
Just great to hear the forward planning going in at the moment. And just like to acknowledge how you've really seen how people in Wellington are doing hard. I have family in Wellington and they tell me it's, people are really starting to feel the pinch down there, especially around government jobs. Thank you for that, Rob.
Thank you. Councillor Stella?
Yes, I just wanted to ask, was the website designed locally?
Yes, it was, and we're actually going to submit it for some awards because it's done on the Shopify platform.
Yeah.
Never before has an RTO ever used that platform. It's the first time. It's really innovative, and it's done by Stun, which is a local business. And we did go through the full process of looking for 3 different businesses, and the key thing we couldn't find anyone who could do it for our price. And so to be able to achieve what we have on time, in budget, and to look like that, we're pretty stoked.
Yeah, well done. It's very cool.
Thank you. Member Joe.
I just want to say congratulations for getting through this far. We've received a similar about what's happening out there, and as the EU covering the area, we are meeting tonight to basically discuss what we're going to do. Well done for everything that you continue to do.
Thank you.
Chrissy, we miss Chrissy.
Yes.
Hopefully she won't be too quick.
No, we're keeping her in the region. She's on the end of the phone too if I need her.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anna. No more comments, questions? Thank you very much for your report. Can I then move it for the recommendation? Councillor Goodwin, second Councillor Stella. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Next item, page 31, our non-financial performance measures. Carriage is the author of the report, but I'm sure she's delegated it.
Yes, sure I have to Tanya and to Tracy.
Thank you.
Just first of all, I just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce Josie. Josie's just joined us recently on contract to support our corporate planning functions. So Josie actually helped pull this report together for her first task for the council. So as the report states, this is the year-end or quarter 4 report for 23-24. The results from this report will feed up into our annual report that we're progressing at the moment, and I know there's a paper on the agenda later around the timeline for that. The majority of measures were available to report and so have been included in this. There's just a couple of measures that we're just working through at the moment. and we expect to have those results come through very shortly, so we'll include them in the annual report when they're available. If you look at page 32, the table there does show that there's been more measures achieved this year than there have been compared to the previous year. And there's also over pages 33 and 34 some highlights noted. These include, we've done a lot more road sealing than what we had done last year. We've had an increase in footpaths. That has also been, the condition has improved. Nearly all the water measures have been achieved. There's been a reduction in the number of complaints across our 3 waters network. We've also had faster attendance and reconciliation. Library usage is higher than what it was at this time last year. And the Trust House Rec Centre is also tracking above its 5-year average. Our animal control team have really exceeded their expectations, and rather than doing 6 engagements, they achieved 17 over the course of the year. And we've had a high proportion of consents in both our building and our planning areas that have been done on time within the statutory timelines. So they're probably the key highlights, and just open it up for questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Hicks?
Thanks, Tanya. On page 37, one of the mandatory measurements is number of fatalities and serious injury crashes on the road. I just wanted to question that, because I think it's extraordinary that whilst we can have an influence on the state of the roads, we can't have an influence on driver behaviour, yet it's one of the measurements that we either achieve or not achieve. Don't you think it's an odd measurement?
At the moment, it's one of the DIA's mandatory measures, so all councils across the country have to report on that.
Has it ever been questioned though?
Yes, it has been questioned about for the exact same reason. We can control aspects of it, but we can't control all of what might impact the result.
And the aspects of road quality are considered in all the other measurements, so I just think it shouldn't be there.
Thank you. Councillor Goodwin.
Just on probably on the same subject, on page 32, the number of measures achieved compared with previous year and this year. And I just wonder if the rainfall events were equal, would the numbers change? So is it measuring weather or our infrastructure?
And we have noted in the report that the results aren't directly comparable, because from 2022 through to Feb 22 through to we had the cyclone, we obviously had weather impacted our network, and that impacted our results through wastewater and through stormwater and through roading. So it is noted in the report that we can't say they're directly comparable because it is different weather situation.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councillor?
Just as a follow-up question, so the same event happened, would the infrastructure hold up better than it did in 2022?
I don't think I'm in a position to be able to answer that question. I don't know anything about ELT.
I'm not sure we're in a position to actually answer that.
I think it would be very difficult for anything to be able to cope with Gabrielle, that weather condition. You've got to remember too that our levels of service are based on either 1 in 10 or 1 in 50, I think it's roughly. So, so it's a difficult question, but if you're asking have we improved our network in the last 12 months, we have. And that's things through relining pipes, and improving the Colombo Road pump station as an example, but bridge up this year. So there's various things we have done in the last 12 months that put us in a better position.
Yeah, and that's the thing, we chuck in Gabriel a lot, but it's not just Gabriel's, other things were happening at that time, but you've answered the question. And the other, just one more question if I may. I don't understand the library usage on page 34. It says, when we talk about library visits, the library visits, is that all visits? Is that like digital visits and everything together? Okay. So the people actually coming into the library is increased?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah. In-person visits have increased.
Thank you.
That is confusing.
Councillor Twain.
Just a couple of questions, but on the library one, how's that measured? Is it click a button as you go in or out, or is it people you're actually serving? What's the measure here?
So there's a couple of things going on there. So in terms of visits, so that's both physical people coming through the door and people coming to the digital presence. We treat those both as a visit. Then you've got usage, which is about the activity that's happening in that space, which is why we've got the two measures, because we're conscious that physical visits into the building is only one part of people visiting and interacting with the library, but then we've got the other bit, which is how much are things being used, how many items are being borrowed, how many e-resources are being used. And so sometimes we will see more people coming in and less things being used, and sometimes we'll see it the other way too. And that's also an interesting metric, because that tells us sometimes we've got less people who are using the resource more, and sometimes we've got more people coming in, they're not using as much, but they're physically coming into the space. Or digitally coming into the space. Yeah, indeed. Indeed, and that helps us then shape the sorts of services we
The
offer.
visits are significant. Got any comparison with other libraries?
I don't have right off the cuff, but we do actually track that. So public libraries, through Public Libraries New Zealand, all the stats are brought together. So we could bring back to committee that. In terms of how we're performing, to my knowledge, we're performing well in terms of a population that we've got and the types of items we've got. So some interesting things we've got in that space. We know that our collection works really hard, and that means that for the items that we buy and we have here in the Wairarapa and in Masterton, they are used very actively by the people in Masterton, which means that the stuff that we're choosing to buy is meeting the needs of our community, but also the community's got access to South Wairarapa, Masterton, Hutt City, Porirua and Kapiti as well, but we serve our community really well with what we do.
Thanks, Gordon. My second question, Tanya, great to see the data improving in that non-financial performance space. So well done for staff, I guess, but given this is an audit and risk committee meeting, I guess what's the reasoning behind that would be, do we know, and can we replicate it as we go forward, would be my question.
There's probably a range of factors, like reporting going right across the organisation. There is some recovery, I guess, from COVID. Would be some. We had a bit of a dip, so our 5-year average takes into consideration some of the results from COVID. We obviously had the weather impacts that have impacted results in past years, so it's a whole combination of factors, really.
And will that be reviewed, I guess? Probably a question for the CEO.
Will the reporting be?
The reasoning why we've had those shifts?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. We can come to that.
And some of that will be captured through our annual report process too, with the stories that when we go out to the teams and bring that forward through the annual report.
It'd be a shame to lose what's working well.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Scott and Councillor Craig.
Yeah, thank you. This is just around the wastewater data, achievement data. So great, massive achievement, which is awesome, but just around the 6.56 complaints, can you, obviously you can identify the areas that they've come from. I'm presuming that majority of the complaints last year were from COVID, but it'd be interesting to know, are the other complaints centralised to a new area, or are they one-offs, or are they still from the COVID region?
Yeah, we'll have all the details exactly where
Yeah.
the complaints are from, but I don't have them available.
No, that's okay. It'd just be quite interesting.
There's certainly nothing that's come up that I'm aware of that maybe...
It's showing alarm bells or anything. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be great data for us to have. Now, on page 34, we talk about all council-owned rental units and houses that have been let are compliant with healthy home standards. How many houses and units do we have that are not let out because we haven't got them to healthy homes? So every single house we own is a healthy. That is let. Yeah, that is let. Yeah. So my question is, how many homes do we have that are not let? It could be.
It's not talking about that.
Well, but,
There's,
oh, you're sorry. Go for it, David.
my understanding is there's two, there's one on a Lee's Pakaraka property and there's one on an Upper Plain property, both of which need considerable, Mania Road as well, there's three, that need considerable investment to bring them up to healthy home standards, so they're not let at the moment. And we've acquired those properties for various purposes, which are not for rental housing.
That was the answer.
Right, okay, thank you. Any,
Discussion.
absolutely, no. Member Robin, thank you.
Because I'm a plumber, I'm a bit rabid on water usage. So I see here that the average person uses 578 litres per day. Is that inclusive of the water loss, or is that the actual usage per person? And the reason I ask, being an Aucklander, we use 148 litres per person per day, and that's because we pay for water in and water out. So at 578, when you pay hundreds of dollars for water rates, you'll understand.
Thanks, Matt.
Happy to address that. So we do now have water meters on 95% of our properties. So this number here that you're looking at is it's like a bulk supply number really. It's what is being treated from the plant. So we don't have detailed analysis or breakdown yet on usage per consumer, but that is certainly work in progress.
Councillor Craig.
But then the new water meters we're put in have got the telemetry ability for us to get to that information quite quickly, wouldn't it?
Yes, it's not absolute telemetry, they are smart meters, but we still need to do drive-arounds and collect that data.
But we could get an idea, we could say, look at all the houses down
Yes, we could, we could.
Second Street and go, okay, we can see.
Gary's been
We can see that those houses are using an average of 300. So we can make some assumptions that maybe we're losing a couple of hundred out of the system.
Yes, that's right, and that work is in progress.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Goodwin.
Well, I would assume that officers would have access to worldwide data because, funny enough, most of us use the same whether you're in Denmark or Germany or UK. And that number, 175.5 litres, is in Council's own reports. So whether it's 175 or 148, it is somewhat less than 578. And I'm sure that from the 1st of July we'll come a bit closer to addressing that problem. Just a query that Kim made the comment about us improving our systems so that we would do better if the same rain fell before. I'm just struggling to remember the numbers, I'm not very good with them. The 30-year graph for, say, wastewater condition assessment is showing 1.5% per year increase, is it? I think something like that. And if you look at I would have thought that's the condition of the pipes. Okay, it's got cheaper to reline pipes and replace them, and it gives a massive jump in the number, but it doesn't last as long as a new pipe in some councils' estimates. So I just wonder if you could advise us, what's the best metric for that sort of overall network assessment? What's the best number to look at so that we don't go looking at the wrong numbers or get misled? To give us the assurance that the network is improving and not just staying static.
Well,
think you'd be looking at certainly leaks and other things, so but
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. I think the best way to look at that is by looking at your backlog in terms of leaks and repairs, looking at the age of your infrastructure and then the number of ongoing leaks and complaints that you are getting. And so you'd look at that trend over time.
And the quantum of liquid involved. You know, when it rains heavily, for instance, there's a great surge.
Yep, so you would look at losses.
That would be relevant
The water inflow into sewer pipes is different than
A water leak.
leaking out of water pipes. So there's two different networks and two different measures. And so the sewer pipes can be inspected with cameras. So that the condition assessment using CCTV is an ongoing process for us to assess the condition and as well as the age. That'd be right, Naz, with
And I would assume that it's also the key thing, the private laterals, which is long, probably scared council to address. There's issues, quite major ones, with private laterals that one day will need addressing. And presumably before the consent in 2034.
Well, private laterals are subject to repair by the property owners.
It is in our bylaws, as I understand it. But I also understand that we could do more in addressing those private laterals.
I think once we've got the water meter project really up and running, we can be a lot more proactive around private leaks. People will get notifications and then they have a vested interest, obviously, to quickly repair those leaks.
That's great for water in, but the water out, for instance, personally, I always thought, and I've heard others express it, that rather than address it one day and cause a lot of heat in the community, that whenever we do or have done a sewer line renewal down a road or something, I would have thought that would be the chance, 1,000 cuts, to attack all those properties down there and say, you've got a problem with your sewage laterals we've identified, we want to fix it within X months.
Well, the historical practice has been that the trunk main will get repaired or will get replaced.
Yes, but I'm talking about using...
Your question, councillor, or are we debating?
Yeah, what's...
I'm
what
questioning
are you trying to
whether when you do the sewer trunk or main renewal, questioning whether you should use that opportunity to address the private laterals, which in many cases I'm sure it's evident that there is a problem.
Well, if it's obvious that there is a problem and it is the property owner's problem, we would notify the property owner. But at this point, we don't go into private property and make any repairs at ratepayers' expense.
Which is...
If we install the main sewer line, we will test at the same time, smoke test with that new line and pressure test to make sure that we don't see any smoke coming out the gutters of the properties, which is, cross connection. So yes, we do that. Yes.
I suppose the question, do we use that bylaw which can make us force the repair of the lateral, if I'm not mistaken? Do we use that big step?
I'm not sure about previous practice, but going forward we will use the bylaw to get repairs, as we will use water meters to identify and notify.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to.
Thank you.
Learn from the past.
Thank you. Councillor Craig, thank you.
Just a quick question. So going forward, are we going to be looking to put some flow meters on some of our main trunk lines to try and look at our flow pattern through the system?
So we do have a very small project underway at the moment where we are building a hydraulic model for water supply. We've got the trial that we're doing with the Coburn Street project, and we're doing a hydraulic model now.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just with the water meters, do all of them have to be installed before we use them? Or can we have
No, they don't all, and there may be a scenario where we reach a policy point where they are not all entirely installed, because we still have the shared services challenge to deal with, but there will be 95% of them installed before we go live.
Okay, are they being installed today? Is that how it's working?
They have been installed over time.
Yeah. But like today, is it an ongoing project right now?
Yes.
So
There
there's
is still,
500 left to install across the whole city, and the reason for some of the complexities is that there might be a subdivision that has occurred with one water connection going in, and we have to obviously ensure that we've got the correct policies to be able to access and go onto property to install, onto private property to install those meters. So there might be multiple connections going in through one water source.
So we're very close to being able to use them.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
We're still aiming for the 30th of June or the 1st of July next year to be operational and billing. So we've got a lot of work to do in the meantime, but there's a lot of background sort of policy work at the stage. So yes.
Okay. Councillor Goodwin, your quick question, please.
Question? There's a couple of them actually. On page 37, the percentage of footpaths condition, I just wonder if that's the best way, my question, to represent where the average is 51%, goods 29%, excellent is 14%. I think rolling those three into one is I just wonder if that's the best way to convey the picture of our footpaths, because certainly councillors often get feedback that we could do better, and I just wonder if that way of measures that. The other query is with the water supply, what applies to the other one. Someone, I won't use their name in this public forum, but I think for about 6 or 8 years as a person who I've spoken to from time to time complaining about the number of kettles they buy in certain areas of Masterton where this happens because of the rust and stuff in the water. And I just wonder if this, what this doesn't tell us is if the complaints are coming from the same place year in, year out for a decade.
Is that a question, councillor, or is it a comment?
I'm sure I can frame it as a question. So, yeah, my question is, can you look at that? Can you come back to us at some stage? Because that, you know, if it's happening in the same place, it's a bit different.
Yeah, I think we can improve some of the analytics around the complaints, so we can see where the hot zones are and what the infrastructure is that they're complaining about.
Can you just get an answer on your first question being the...
Well, the first question Councillor Goodwin's asking us is to change the metrics, really, and that's not for today's meeting. Today we're reporting on metrics, and if we are going to establish KPIs, that's in a future meeting, I believe, which will be...
And we did the review through the LTP process.
With those numbers.
Mr. Chief Executive, that's a mandatory measure before you can't change the metrics.
So?
Right? Councillor, if you look at there, anything with a mandatory measure, the council can't change the metrics, whether we love it or hate it. Right? End of story. It's not for debate for today. Otherwise we'll be here till Christmas on this one item. The discussion. Thank you, Councillor Beeks.
I just wanted to say it's really encouraging to see the stormwater and the wastewater issues decreased over the last year, and also too, whilst we talk about the weather, we're actually doing better in the last quarter than we did in summer. So I would venture to say that we have had some network improvements, and it's just a joy to see. So well done to Maz's team.
Gary.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to congratulate the staff on this report. I think it's a very positive report when we look at it. I'm probably in a more fortunate position than most people on the councillors have actually seen the amount of hard work the staff put into every one of these avenues, and you know, we're a mean organisation now, and I think it speaks very highly of the staff that we have a report like this in front of us. I want to make a special mention, if I could, though, of the dog control team for the excellent work that they're doing. I think it would be fair to say most of us who've been on council a while would know that over years we have complaints regarding our dogs and how we handle things, and those complaints I think have actually almost become nil now, and it's because of the excellent work that the control team is doing, and particularly in the area of community education. So I'd like to make a particular thanks to them.
Thank you. Any other comments, points for discussion?
Got one.
Thank you.
I appreciate Gary's comment. I also appreciate a council like Councillor Goodwin taking the time to ask questions. And I don't care how long the questions take to ask. I think it's important that people representing our community are able to ask them. This isn't a race, this meeting. It's a meeting with no time frame. Thank you, Councillor Goodwin.
Thank you. Right. Do we have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Craig, second Councillor Beeks. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
It's carried. Our next item is key policies for monitoring of the committee.
I've delegated that to staff.
Sorry?
I've delegated that to staff.
Oh, it is? Sorry, 54. Is it Peg, Steph or Steph? Finny, what do you prefer?
Steph is good, thank
Steph's
you.
good, thank you.
Kia ora koutou. So this is a regular update on the policies that is monitored by this committee. I think we've made some pretty good progress since we last reported to you, noting that we have adopted updated fraud and sensitive expenditure policies since that last update that were overdue. The policy now that has come up for review since we last reported is our risk management policy, and ELT is going through a process at the moment reviewing its approach to risk management, which will inform the update of that policy. We have also provided an update on the wider policy work program and policies that have been adopted in the last 6 months or so. A lot of those relate to the long-term plan and the financial policies associated with that. And I think for your next update, we will also be looking to add in policies that will be monitored as part of your new responsibilities on building and planning. So there will be the dangerous and sanitary and effective buildings policy, for example, added to this, which I think you'll note later in your report is also one that is due for review and will be programmed for this year. But happy to take any questions.
Questions? I've got one.
Sure.
Hey, just a question on the risk policy. You say you're going to have it in place in 25. So when abouts in 25? Is it going to be early, middle or late? And
still to be determined. We're still working through exact scheduling of that, but I would hope that it was earlier rather than later because it's for this financial year.
Thank you. Councillor Tom?
Thank you, Steve. No surprises to people sitting around the council that I asked this question, but my naivety, I'm not sure what the risk management policy includes. But certainly, and I'm getting to a question, Mr. Chair. One of my big concerns around, I think one of the biggest risks we as elected members pose for the community is in our decision making. And I'm very keen in a week's time to hear the review that's been done on the local waters done well, and the process they're using, a multi-factor criteria process to determine the best pathway forward. Now I notice at times as an elected group of elected members we are very detailed around some of our decisions and how we make the decisions, and we use evidence. At other times it's almost like it's just an opinion piece. Now that's my perception. Open to challenges on that. But my thinking is, in terms of assuring the community, our decisions are in the best interest of the community. I would like to see, as part of our risk management policy, some guidance around how elected members make their decision. And so, for example, are our decisions in line with our vision? Are they in line with our strategic priorities? Are they in line with our values? And are they in alignment with criteria around this decision? Because I think failing to do that, I think we neglect significant responsibility to our community. So my question is, will the risk management policy, is it able to include something like that? If not, it's not relevant to that policy. Can I make a recommendation that we look at a policy or some sort of guidance around how we make decisions in the best interest of our community, as opposed to personal opinion, perhaps ego, perhaps satisfying some of our political supports? Thank you.
I think I might ask if my governance colleague has a response to that. It might be a combination of good governance practice or...
That's fine. So the reason why we haven't been working on the risk management policy is that we want to make sure that our decisions and the approach that we take internally as ELT and then what we feed up to council is a meaningful assessment of risk without it being overly complicated and onerous. So that's what we're working through at the moment as an ELT, how best we can do that. That's why we haven't reported to this meeting, but we will be reporting to the next meeting on where we've got to with that. So once we've got that shaped up, we can look at how the policy reflects where we are and whether we need a policy. It might all be there in the framework. So that will come as part of those discussions. At the same time, Councillor, we can look at what that framework does and whether it actually achieves what you're looking for. I'd say that the report is supposed to be able to do that for you. That's why we have those implications. Maybe we need to add some risk parameters within those implications at the back of the report. If that's not working for the council and you want to see some more information in there, then we're happy to take feedback from you on what sort of information you'd like to see to assist your decision making.
Good question. Thank you. All right, thank you. Any further questions? Any discussion? Councillor Craig.
I'd just like to acknowledge the work that has gone into the acquisition and disposal policy. That has been something which has been a bugbear for some of us on the council for a while, and I'd just like to say thank you for bringing this up for us to adopt in October 24, and I look forward to some good debate on what is and possibly isn't in it. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments, points of discussion? Right, can I have a mover for the recommendation, please? Thank you, Mayor Barry. We have a seconder. Councillor Marama. Right, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Next one is 5.6, our corporate carbon emissions reduction plan revised timetable, page 58. Oh!
Well, you'll see I haven't managed to delegate this one,
No.
but I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Kylie Robinson, who's hiding over there. Kylie's our new environmental lead, and she will be delegated responsibility for presenting these reports in the future. So this report was a response to the last meeting in which the committee asked for an update to the CCERP. There were some out-of-date information in there, and the timelines were rapidly approaching. So we have tried to incorporate some more realistic and achievable timelines against the actions in the CCRP. Having said that, we haven't progressed very much from the last report. That has been because of a very large long-term plan document that we had to have all hands to the pump to help us get through that for the end of June. But as I say, we now have Kylie with us. Kylie's currently going through our environmental work programming with Tanya, and looking across, you'll know that we've got quite a lot of work in that space on our work programme. So we're looking at what that timing is and the interdependencies between those various pieces of work, and they will be things like the spatial plan, the coastal management plan, the wellbeing framework that we are looking at reviewing, the wellbeing strategy, perhaps looking at the wellbeing framework. So there's lots of components in there that cross over and lots of aspects of our work, so we're looking at how best we can achieve that. And so we'll be reporting back to you next time with a more refined work programme. And some of those second order pieces of work that sit under the plan itself, and what does that actually mean, what are we actually doing in terms of actions and implementations for those, and priorities. We know that we can't do everything, especially with a big work programme. We do not have a lot of resource to devote to the work, and so how best we're using that resource. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, the risk of sounding like one only I just had a point 39 again. My understanding was there was a focus now on hybrid vehicles as opposed to electric vehicles, but updating our fleet. So should that not be updated at the right-hand side column? Just so I don't ask the same question every single time.
I think I'll answer it in the same way that I did last time as well, Councillor, is that when we go through the actual review process as to what this item is, there had been lots of discussion around that it was an electric vehicle, but we have since ordered 2 hybrids. So we will, once we have that discussion of actually do we want to be putting our efforts into an electric infrastructure, or are we happy with technology at the moment to be hybrids, we can amend that, but we haven't had that discussion yet.
Well, it's just that in the right-hand column it's got updates.
That's
so
right.
That's the update.
Would you like me to put it in there?
The right-hand side.
I'll put it in there, Councillor.
Very helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Goodwin?
Yes, just a query for you. Should we be including with the climate action plan coming up the fact that we have a polluted airshed for the next 5 years? And I think I read somewhere, you know better, that Greater Wellington wants to work with us on this issue. So should that be put in something, I'm not sure where, but somewhere, it's certainly in the wellbeings. And as we've discussed in the past, the Treasury Wellbeing Report only looks at 4 items, unlike the vast length we had. And one of them is here.
You may recall, Councillor, originally we had in the Climate Action Plan, there were some actions around air quality, and that came to the previous council just before the election, and those items were removed from the action plan because they were considered around the table to be Greater Wellington's responsibility, and so the focus was to be elsewhere, let Greater Wellington deal with those matters. Now I know that Greater Wellington, their resourcing was such that they haven't been able to do that, and their plan is to pick that up again, you'll know better than I will, in the next couple of years to improve the quality in our airshed. And we will be more than happy to work with Greater Wellington if that's part of our BAU. If there's any specific actions that you would like us to take as a council, well then we would need to incorporate those in the action plan or another plan, and they would need to be funded because we currently don't have the resourcing allocated towards that work.
You have seen the statement from Greater Wellington that they want to work with us.
Yes.
So if they want to work with us, should we be putting it in our plans so that we will be capable of working with them, rather than being told, we took it out 2 years ago, sorry, we won't talk to you.
That's a question for this table, because it was in there and it was a direction from the previous council that we were not going to focus our efforts and our resources on air quality because that was considered to be Greater Wellington's work. There are a number of things that we could do. We could do lots of advocacy and education. We have had previously in the past some giveaways for dry wood, which obviously we've talked about before. Wet wood creates smoke, and so what can we do in those areas? So there are a number of actions that we can as a territorial authority take, but the previous council decided not to fund those and not to put resources to that. So if it's the mood around this table that we want to focus on those areas, you can give us that direction, but we would then be coming to you and asking for funding.
So do you want a resolution or a discussion, or shall I put a resolution?
Well, let's talk about the discussion, right? Thank you. Are there any more questions? I've got one, Karen. Right? In 2024-25, you've got 14 things in progress, which is listed below. How confident are you we're going to achieve them in this year, coming year?
All of them?
All of them, yeah.
Not very confident, which is why we're going through a bit of a work program. We did have an ambitious program, and the work was not prioritised, and so, like I say, part of Kylie's job is to have a look at this work and our climate action plan, our community action plan, and identify where is it best for us to put our resources, given that we are and will be an even more shrunk team come next year.
Yep. So I'd expect a revised table that I've got on page 58. Thank you. Now, any more questions? Comments?
Can I put a motion there?
You can move, yeah.
Look, I'd like to, with your help.
All we're doing, Councillor, the issue is, all we're doing is receiving the information, right?
Yes, we are, but I'm hearing the officer in control of it saying that she needs a direction from this committee.
Yep.
And so I'm wondering how
Okay.
to do that by resolution or by discussion, or I don't know.
What are you proposing, Councillor? Because this committee's got no delegated authority, so it needs to be a recommendation to council. Right, so when you put your resolution, you need to put that this committee recommends to council. I'm just helping you through the process. Okay? All right, now you say you can actually now. So what are you proposing?
I'm proposing that we put in our future plans, in the world banks and probably climate action plan, I'm not 100% sure which plans, I don't think it's the corporate one, that the council will work towards a collaboration with Greater Wellington on addressing the air pollution, the airshed pollution classification that we've carried for the next 4 years. Does that make sense?
Mr.
Karen, how will you respond to that?
Perhaps as an alternative, Chair, the officers report to the next council meeting on actions that we could take around air quality and seek a decision from council at that point whether they want us to, whether you want us to.
Yeah. Okay. Are you happy about that in terms of process? Yep.
So that's going as a recommendation with this.
So therefore you're moving the recommendation as it is. We received the report and that words from Karen.
Officers report to council on actions we can take regarding air quality.
Well, can I just raise a point here, is that there's going to be a lot of time and effort to go and create a report. Is there an appetite from the council here to support a report before we go down that path? Because we can spend another 7 days of officer time with us, and if there's no collective agreement here that that's what we'll do, it's wasted time. So maybe we can get a...
Well, what I'm saying, maybe can I just help, right? So what I'm saying is maybe we actually take the recommendations in two parts. One is we receive the report, right? And then we then take the second proposed recommendation by Councillor Goodwin, and if Council don't believe it's appropriate, they vote no, and if they believe it's appropriate, they vote yes. I think that's probably the fastest way of resolving it.
It's still for us to create
a report,
a significant report that there's no support.
Just as an alternative that might solve that. Manager Karen talks about identifying some priorities going forward. We've got a long list of actions now, and pretty hard to achieve all of those. I would be in favour of Karen and her team going ahead and identifying the priorities that are likely to make the biggest impact with the least cost, but including the air quality in those priorities, bringing them back to Council for a discussion or approval meetings. Given that you're already going to be doing that, am I correct? Would that work for you, Councillor?
So just, are you? Yeah.
So including air quality as part of the considerations for the work programme going ahead.
So basically you're doing it anyway at this stage? Okay, so Councillor, no?
We haven't put a dollar figure on contribution to the program.
No, not yet, no.
We don't have a budget.
Right, so that would be part of
Financial implications we may seek. So we'll look at what we can do as part of BAU and our ordinary work with GW, and then if there's anything else that has financial implications, we can come back for out of budget funding or include it as part of the annual plan if Council is interested in us doing that work.
But I think, and you may have read it better than me, that GW have indicated that they are applying budget to this in, I don't know, 27, 28.
27, 28.
And so we have got a bit of time through annual planning, etc., to deal with those issues of budgeting. But I'm just conscious that it takes a while. If they've indicated that they want to act in a couple of years, start acting in a couple of years' time, and we have an appetite to join them, which they've expressed the wish to work with us. It just seems prudent to start it now and slowly work forward.
Well, I think that,
and the budget.
Yeah, what I'm hearing though, from Karen, is exactly that's what she's doing. She's going to look at the priorities, including the air quality, and come back to us, right? Okay. That's what I'm hearing. So I don't see any need for your resolution. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Right, any further discussion? Right, so Councillor Goodwin, are you still proposing to recommend the recommendation? Move the recommendation, thank you. Do I have a seconder?
What's the recommendation?
We just basically received the report, and it's noting what Karen has already said, right? That a further update will be coming, right? Yes, you'll second it. Thank you, Councillor Marrimer. All right, any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Karen.
I'll be back.
You'll be back? Oh, okay. Health and safety. Kane and Ben, or are you just going to delegate this one?
Yeah, delegate this to Kane, our Health and Safety and Wellbeing Advisor. He may redirect questions to me though.
Thank you.
When it comes to HR metrics.
Thank you. Thanks, Kane.
Excellent. So I'm going to just give an update on the top three as per usual. And I'd just like to say I'm going to bring some energy to the room because I'm super excited about what I've got to talk about today. So key update number one for the quarter has been our health and safety culture change project. Now this kicked off at the end of June and has been 6 weeks of retraining the organisation around health and safety and rolling out our brand new health and safety platform which is called Assura. It's super exciting to actually get people in a room and talk about health and safety when you meet. For them, not so much. No, it was really great. Everyone engaged with the process and there's been really positive feedback around it. And in the next report, you'll see how people actually engaged with the tool and the reporting that's coming out of it. And what that will look like. It will change how we report and what we show in the reports. As you'll see further down in the report that the table is quite empty. We did have a couple of incident reports out of the library, but that was dealt with at the time and it has now quietened down. The platform we are using is a mobile app, so people can report health and safety incidents on the go. So they don't have to try to remember all the detail and come back to the office and do it. They can record video and photo as well, which is fantastic. So it's a real step up to the process that we had previously. As part of that, the next steps are developing the platform, so it has a huge amount of capability, and we are looking, I'm working with Maz's team specifically around our contract and management and the tools that we can implement there to improve our process and our reporting, which is obviously something that is highlighted here at this meeting regularly, so we will have much better metrics on that. We also have ELT undertaking audits, and they have been out and about in the community with our teams, seeing what they do on the ground level, which is fantastic. An example of that is we sent Kim out to the animal shelter where he got to do the night feed with the animals, and he gave a report back on that through the Assure app. So simple as, and makes it happen. So health and safety across the organisation at the moment has been, in this report, the prior 3 months was reasonably quiet. We didn't have too many incidents apart from those I just spoke about at the library, and for the month of June we actually had no reports in our old system, so that's a bit of an anomaly. But obviously the last 2 weeks of June was when we rolled out our Assure platform, so I will give a highlight in the next report what those 2 weeks snapshot looked like, because it was fascinating to see what came across through the platform really early on, and the adoption of it across the organisation. We will also be removing the near-miss reporting, the good catch reporting, and that will be replaced with a safety observation report. Previously our good catch numbers were very low, usually less than 3. Safety observations and the way they are reported across the organisation now, in the first 6 weeks we had nearly 20 come across the table. So it's a proactive system rather than a reactive system, so we're not just catching the events and the aftermath of what's happened, we're catching the, hey, we've got a problem here, let's deal with it early days. So that's been really fantastic to see that across the organisation. What was my... And number 3 was community behaviours. So that's been really quiet in the last 3 months, which is fantastic. We obviously keep a close eye on that with our customer service areas, and they now have the opportunity to access Assure wherever they are within their sites and dealing with it as it comes in. But as I say, it's been very quiet, and that's quite good. The last note there is that we've shared our learnings with South Wairarapa District Council and Masterton District Council, because they have had some issues recently. So sharing that knowledge between our organisations has been quite beneficial, and hopefully they can take away from it some of our learnings. I think that's pretty much me. Is there anything else? No, good. Excellent. So please direct any questions to Peter.
Okay. I've got Councillor Beeks and Councillor Flynn.
Okay. That was a great report. It was very exciting. Just before my question, I just wanted to congratulate you on Assure making a difference, and also the development of the NBC leaders that help and support staff. And I see that you've got an upcoming new NBC leave policy that will help influence staff to take leave. I'd just be interested in seeing that. I know that it's operations, but seeing that what changes you've made and how you're going to influence people taking their leave.
The answer to that, yeah, I think we'd be happy to share that. I suppose the key differences between the previous policy and the new policy is it's a bit stronger in regards to the way in which we manage individuals who might have excessive leave balances, in particular around ensuring that they have leave plans. And if we get to a point where leave plans don't work, which is what we want to do, there is the ability for MDC to insist that people take leave or so forth to get those balances down.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking is when I was a general manager with Radio Network and MediaWorks, we introduced a new policy which actually went through all the motions for that, but then the policy could give them a range of dates and a time frame, and they had to choose one basically. But what the good thing was though, some of them objected, not very many staff, but some people then they got into they thought business couldn't run without them kind of thing. But once they started taking regular leave, they also found that they got into the habit of that. And the other thing, in the policy you could give them a 4-day week where they took leave either, and they could choose either a Friday or a Monday. But it had the desired effect without being too bullish, so I'm just interested in it.
Yeah, we want to take it to, I suppose our key drivers is just to be more proactive. And you're right, workforce planning plays a big part in this as well. So it's been a bit more strategic around how we have conversations with our people on their 12-month leave plan, because we do have busy periods obviously, and we are quite lean. So it is about being a bit more strategic about annual leave strategy. If that makes sense.
I have a question.
You have a question?
My school, no way.
Sorry?
Can I ask then, can the share be scaled down to a smaller organisations, for example, school?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. I'll ask a question. You're talking about the share in the contractors, right? Can we get a report on the number of contract sites that were audited, right, or visited? And I don't want to know the detail, but we did 14 and 13.5 passed, right? Is that possible? Because what worries me, right, is the Auckland City Council case, and I know you've heard me on the stuff record on this one, right, is that we don't do an audit when we should have done an audit, right? We relied on them saying, yes, we've got it, but then there's no evidence of them doing it, and we just didn't do it. And I think that's the bit that keeps me awake at night for the council, right? By giving us assurance that the audit, you're doing a good selection of audits of your contractors.
So, agreed. We have a online form or tool now on Assure. So and it's great having Maz starting fresh as well. So we're working alongside Maz really closely around our staff who regularly visit our contractors. So the expectation will be they'll be using the tool every time they visit. So we've got live data.
Yeah, and that would be then summarised and reported. Thank you.
So in the form, it's there's a question, pass or fail.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it'll be all in the one place, so it's much easier to gather that metric as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Comment, thank you.
My comments around, again, the Assure platform. I'm looking forward to seeing the first reports out of it. I think it's been one of the gaps here in audit and risk is around health and safety. I don't think we've had enough detail. It's been getting better, no doubt in that. But I think as an organisation we need to have some real detail and some more good awareness as to what's actually going on out there. Not only contractors but with staff. And those incidents reports I think are something that need to be, I see the ones at the library we'll deal with straight away, but I think they still need to come to attention, even they may be considered minor.
We are working on what metrics we'll be reporting on at the moment, but if there are gaps, we can certainly look to fill those.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we've got a recommendation on page 76. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Tin. Do I have Tom? So it's so on, so okay, we've got a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Craig. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Now, next item is 5.8, terms of reference. Do that one. I'm just conscious that at 3 o'clock, we've got another Karen joining us online for the audit plan 5.10. So,
We've got through these two next reports.
Sorry?
We can whip through these two next reports.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, when do we want to take a 5-minute break, team? Karen will sit and wait? Oh, okay. All right.
What's the relationship between this report, the function, and the survey we're doing afterwards? Because it doesn't matter, but they do seem to be related.
Bring that up after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Terms of reference?
Yep.
Very quickly, the council agreed to establish the Inspection Services Committee in June, and the Inspection Services had a number of functions reporting to it, so we've reallocated those out. And this committee got building and planning. Because building and planning does present an element of risk, so it was that you had oversight of those functions. So this is just advising you of that decision and the updated terms of reference that now includes in red oversight of the building and planning functions. That's it.
Can I just help, Councillor? It's a formality at this stage, then after the meeting we'll discuss that and then the subsequent recommendation or work to council to change anything subsequent. Okay, so this is a formality, this one, and there could be other changes as a result. Okay?
So the line in red, the adding in the planning and building, we'll discuss afterwards.
No, discuss that now, but I thought that would be done by council.
Okay, I just wondered what that means, because I've always understood that is controlled by outside body, ND, or audited by DIA.
It's oversight of those
So
functions.
what do we do on it? Because we do from time to time seem to have some problems, and problems can occur in that department. And I accepted the MD audit as, if you're well behaved, it's only every 2 or 3 years or something, and they can ramp it up every year. But I suppose my question is, there seem to be gaps, and the query is, can we, by oversight, make the performance better and minimise those oversights?
So there's a couple of parts to that. So the BCA, the Building Consenting Authority, is the audit is around that consenting. We also have the territorial authority function, which is around sanitary buildings, the hiring buildings, and swimming pools are all part of that function. Now, MB does have oversight of that too, but it's not to the same degree. Your role as governors is to make sure that we are doing what we need to do. So when there are report back from MB on areas that we need to focus on, that's your job to make sure that we do focus on that and that we have our systems in place. And any other risks that we may present through our regulatory processes, that we identify what those risks are and we take action and mitigation to make sure that we are dealing with that. So that's your role in having oversight of these functions. No different to what the Infrastructure and Services Committee was.
Well, maybe I'm saying it wrong. This is really probably the biggest monetary risk we ever take. And I suppose I'm asking on an audit committee, can we do better at addressing some of these risks? I don't know.
And it's this forum that we can bring those reports to you, so that we report in a public forum on how we are performing, and we can be held to account, and the Chief Executive can from a management perspective that we're actually doing everything we can to minimise those risks. So it's that forum to have those discussions.
And so those reports will be perhaps more rigorous than in the past. Is that what?
We can certainly beef up, I guess, our areas around identification of risk and where we're mitigating those. Yes.
Okay, any other councillors? Tom?
Yeah. So I get my head around this. We've got the external reviews in this space, and we've got our own internal regulatory processes that we follow. I guess one of the things I'd like to see, if we're discussing it now, Mr. Chair, is, when there is an issue in one of those spaces, and it might be a one-off, are we doing a review on our learning so that we're safeguarding council in the town against a repetition of that?
Absolutely, and so when we get that feedback, we then, and the MB will make sure that we actually respond, and they keep coming back until we actually prove to them that we are doing what we can there. So that is done through MB, but we will be doing it ourselves through ELT. My responsibility to the Chief Executive is that I take all of those actions, and then I work my way down through the managers. So that's just part of our operations, but if there are significant risks, we will report that to this committee through our risk reporting.
Yeah, and I'm thinking more if there has been a significant mistake, maybe not ours, but it's been a mistake in terms of the law. People who rule on the law, will we as councils get a review on how that might be rectified in the future?
If it presents a risk, then we will report that to you on what mitigations that we are taking through that risk function of this committee. Yeah.
And who will decide it presents a risk?
So that's the work that we're doing that we spoke about earlier around that risk management framework, so that we can keep on top of our operational risks. So these will be operational risks, but if they're significant, then they may then present a significant corporate risk. If there is, multi-millions of dollars attached to a liability, then that absolutely becomes a corporate risk. So that's the work that we're doing there on our processes and our policy, and then we'll report that back. And then you can see when we report back our framework, how well that will be to actually identify what those operational risks are and reporting those to you so that you can actually achieve your governance function.
Thank you.
Is there anything you wanted to add, Shane, to you or Christine?
Just in terms of like a lot of our functions, MB actually every 3 months, or in our case, every 3 months, they're actually asking for data, they're looking at what work we've completed, and they provide us feedback as well every 3 months. So we could bring some of that here. A lot of it's pretty mundane, but we're continually chipping away at our functions in terms of their recommendations. You'll see in this report they've actually just done a recent review of some of our functions and got some recommendations on that. We'll address all them. We're pretty proactive in closing them out as fast as we can go. So yeah, we do. Yeah, MB keep a good handle on what we're doing, and we are required to respond pretty quickly with what they ask us to do.
Thank you. Okay. Any further questions on that? Can I just post any comments? I actually, a number of other board and risk committees that I sit on, we actually see a copy of the IN's reports, right, in detail as part of our role, because failing that is a significant risk for council. Right? It's a major, okay? But it's also then tracking those improvements to make sure that they're actually being achieved, because if we don't achieve them, then that's another failure as well. So that's part of in my opinion, the audit and risk. It's about that risk which Karen has talked about. So it's not, to me, abnormal, but also there's one council that actually regularly reports their compliance with the statutory limits, etc., both on building and consents as well. So if that's coming under again, it'll be interesting to see what future reporting looks like. Thank you, Karen. And it's focused on risk. Right? Thank you. So do I have is no further discussion? Do I have a move for the recommendation then, please? Councillor Goodwin, second Councillor Craig. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Let's do the building and planning update while you're standing up, quick and easy.
There's lots of figures in there. Do you have any questions? I do.
Oh, question, thank you.
We are just, sorry, right.
Page 79. 17.
Yeah, that's me. Yes, me. Thank you.
Go.
Sorry, I just lost the page. Question. Do we survey customers around the specific services we provide through that department?
I'm trying to think, and I'm going to look at Tanya now, in terms of our customer survey, what questions we have around. We have questions around all of our activity areas. I can't remember off the top of my head what actual questions there are around building and planning, but they are definitely included.
Do we survey, because I know that customer survey is around just picking people, can we survey the customers that have used that service specifically? We can?
There's no reason why we couldn't.
Yep, great. Can we look into doing that? My next question around that is around feeding back the information on consents. I would really like to see how many building consents come in and how long they're being processed, how long it's taken them to be processed, the timeframes around that, and also if I could see how many are not being processed within the 21 days. I know that RFIs come up, but I'd really like to see that data. Reason being is, I believe there could be a risk that if our reputation or our processing or our fees are not seen as positive or favourable, that could be a risk to our reputation for people wanting to build within the Masterton region.
Did you want to respond to that?
Yep, we can do that. That's actually some of the new data set that MB actually asked directly off us, so they have all their data, including ours, up on their website if you want to go and have a look there. In terms of stuff that goes over time, it's that whole balance of customer service. Often some of those consents, we get them, we're like, do we take them in, do we not? Sometimes we take them in to try and help people through the process, and that's where the statutory clock comes and bites us, because often we end up in a whole lot of RFIs that will go out 2 or 3 rounds. So it is difficult, but we can report that through and the reasons why. Yep.
Small comment then, a question. Okay, first question is, another data set I'd like added in is how many consents are not progressed after the initial application and the RFI reports come in. So looking to track those people who think, Jesus, this is too hard. I'd just like a little bit of help with that, okay? So I think that would be important as to the ability to go back to people, especially maybe just doing small alterations, you know, say stuff under $50,000, which is a hell of a lot. Just to try and progress a bit more business and get it moving along. I think we could play an important part in helping some of our local economy by just getting back to some of these people that usually slip through our fingers.
There would be actually very few that don't progress and get through. There are the odd one, but in most cases people, once they start the process, they'll go through it. But we can have a look at that data though, and look at the vetting data, because we do vet the application, so we can have a look at how many don't progress through from that stage. That's possible to report.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any comments? No comments. Can I have a move for the recommendation? Councillor Beck, seconded. I'll second. Right, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Right. Is Karen Young? Is Karen here yet?
She is. Would you like me to let her in?
Yeah, so let her in. Item 5.10, page 84, our audit plan. And believe it or not, this is the first one I've actually seen. I saw one committee. Well, I've got one committee meeting next week, and I say audit aren't releasing them yet. Welcome, Karen.
Hello. Hello everyone. Hello Chair. Hello everyone.
David, do you want to introduce the report? Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Chair. There's a brief introductory page on page 84 that introduces it and puts it in context with the other documents that we accept, which is the audit engagement letter and the audit proposal. So that the audit plan is specific to the audit coming up in the next 2 months, which is the audit of our annual report for the year ended 30th of June 2024, and what specifically the external auditors are looking to focus on. in that audit, and some of those are financial measures, some of them are non-financial measures. And Karen can speak to that, but also you've had the opportunity to read the audit plan. The dates are set out as to when the audit starts, and our target for completion, which is the 30th of October, which is within the statutory timeframe. And you'll recall that the previous 2 financial years, the timeframe hasn't been met for various reasons, but we're all back on track, I think, now after the COVID disruptions. Karen.
Thank you, Karen. Is there any highlights you want to talk about the audit plan for the year?
Thank you, Philip and David. Oh, I think the highlight so far is that the long-term plan audit obviously has been completed, but on the back of that, only giving the council 1 week break, we had a massive interim / pre-final audit. So my thanks to our finance and reporting teams who rose to the challenge and provided us with a lot, despite being school holidays and all, provided us with the information that we were after to enable a big interim pre-final audit to be conducted. So we are well placed to complete the audit, the final audit starting on the 30th of September and signing at the end of October.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Councillor Goodwin?
I'm just wondering when, on a cyclical basis, when are you next doing an audit on wastewater asset management plans? I know you work your way through them every few years. We've got a consent issue coming up, and I'm just curious when you will next be looking at wastewater, which periodically, I don't know, every 5 or 6 years in the last few years, you pick something like that and do it across the country in a short report.
So as part of the long-term plan audit this year, we looked at Council's asset management plan, including the Three Waters asset management plan. Occasionally, the Office of the Auditor General does audits of specific areas across councils. So they, if they've included something in their annual plan, that may be an area which they look into and to sample various councils' asset management plans. For the long-term plan purposes, we looked at whether asset management plans support information for public consultation purposes and also the long-term performance and accountability of councils.
I suppose I would the sort of analysis I'm talking about was much deeper than what we saw for the LTP. Ours only went out about 5 years.
Councillor, I think the issue was that Karen Young has answered the question by saying that's obviously Auditor General. So the Auditor General every year they will select something, an item of interest, and they will ask the auditor to do a deep dive into that as part of their annual audit. At this stage, there's nothing on the hit list this year, Karen, that the Auditor General has asked you to look at extra because of the LTP. Okay?
Correct. Yes. Thank you.
Right, any other questions? I probably should stand, but one question I've got: who's your EQR? Who's your quality director?
Oh, it's John Mackey.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? No questions. Thank you very much for popping in. Karen, we've got to physically catch up at some stage, I know, but you're busy, I'm busy. All right.
Oh, definitely.
Next week, so. All right.
Okay, I'll connect with you, Philip, if you're coming to Wellington.
Yeah, I'm at LGNZ conference.
Oh, LGN, what day is that on?
Thursday, Friday.
Okay, there's probably a opportunity for us to meet, maybe on Friday.
Okay, all right. Send us an
Okay,
email.
thanks.
All right,
Thanks, Philip. Yes, will do.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Right, so we've got a recommendation there on page 84.
I'll move.
Thank you. Me, Gary, do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Tom. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
It's carried. Can I suggest we adjourn for 10 minutes? Great. Thank you. Right, 5.11, let's reconvene. 5.11, page 104, Treasury Report. Mr. Paris, welcome, you got the tail end Charlie job.
Yeah, it's a few reports. We'll knock them over quickly if we try. This is the report we do to this August meeting of the committee each year. It's a summary of the financial position for investments and debt as at the 30th of June, the end of the financial year. So you'll see we had 31.34 million invested in funds, of which 7.6 million is held as pre-funding to repay debt maturities. So we repaid an LGFA bond in July. We had 5 million already borrowed to repay that July payment, and there's another 2.6 that we borrowed early to repay an April maturity. So the opportunity to borrow early is offset by the interest that we earn on those funds, and the interest earned and the cost of the debt are neutral. But we secure the interest rate and we secure the borrowing upfront rather than being exposed to whatever interest rate on the day is of the maturity. The total external term debt was 62.6 million, but if you take that 7.6 pre-funding off it, it's 55 million. That compares to 60.3 that was in the annual plan expectation for the year end. So we're about $5 million less debt at the end of the financial year than we anticipated. And that's because, just to put that in context, we have drawn on debt to the extent of about 6.4 million for capital projects. So it was going to be 11 million for capital projects. So there are capital projects, in particular the airport, that the debt funding for that hasn't been utilised in the financial year. The project's still underway. So yeah, the debt is lower because our capital expenditure projects requiring debt funding have been lower. But we've made the repayments that were in the annual plan. I think I'll take the rest of the report as read. There's a lot of numbers on the pages. The compliance with policy, the Treasury policy in terms of investments and the debt levels and the maturities spread across future years, and the amount that's fixed with swaps versus floating. All of those are within Treasury management policy. The one exception is where we have a policy that no more than 8 million be deposited or held with any one bank. We currently have 9.6, or at that time, at 30th June, we had 9.6 million with ASB on deposit. And there is an exception to the policy that says if we have pre-funding for a short period of time, that pre-funding doesn't count in the policy limit. So that's noted in the report.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, David?
No. The graph on page 108.
What would you like now?
The first one I'll talk about is the bars. So the bar graph on the bottom of that graphic on page 108 shows the maturities in each year over the next 6 years. So next year there's $11 million maturing. The year after 12 million, the year after 11 million. So those are the LGFA bonds to be repaid. We repay a portion of them and reborrow the rest. And the repayment that we make is funded from our annual budgeting. So that money is being coming in from rates and is used to repay debt. And the debt is in large tranches as it's borrowed and matures. So it's all managed within a treasury management policy. The graph that has the wiggly lines, the upper line is the amount of debt that we are forecasting to have, and that is based on the LTP. So over the next 3 years, we are expecting to be borrowing more money, taking our borrowing number from 50 million approximately to 100 million. And then the shaded area at the bottom is what we have fixed in terms of our interest rate funding. So instead of waiting until we borrow and then fixing it, there's a portion of our debt is fixed now, and we're locking in those interest rates. And we have cover for future borrowing at a level that is within the policy. So it maintains that cover at between 40 and 70% fixed interest. Is that the explanation that the one other thing that I would point out is on page 107, there's a long list of the LGFA stock and the dollars, but the bond margin over the 90-day rate is listed there for each one. The average is 0.73. So if today the Governor of the Reserve Bank says the cash rate is going to drop from 5.5 to 5.25, which he has done, then the 90-day rate follows closely the cash rate. So if the 90-day rate is 5.3%, then our interest cost will be 6.03%. So add that 0.73 onto the top of the 90-day rate. That's what we would pay as a floating rate. But if we then go to the markets and say, I want to fix that for 5 years, we may get a rate more like 3.8%. So you borrow at today's floating rate and we fix it at a longer term rate and get a reduction. The interest rate curve is sloped downwards at the moment. So it might be 5.25 today, but future money they're predicting is going down. So it's a good idea now to fix those longer term rates and lock in longer term interest as the market has an inverted curve.
Right, any questions? Councillor Goodwin?
Just on that graph on page 108, just want to make sure I understand that the top black line, so that currently the forecasted debt is going to go from 50 million to 100 million, I think, Worcester over. And what I don't understand is I know we had a big spend in the LTP of 44 million, which is still 90% of that increase, I presume. But I would have thought with roading and other, some spend on infrastructure, that there would have been more borrowing. Yeah, why does that 44 million seem to be 90% of it, or am I interpreting it wrong? Whereas I would have thought the amount of roading and other infrastructure we're doing, that it wouldn't have been 90%.
The Council's capital expenditure program is funded by depreciation funds, which is funded from rates on an annual basis. So we're spending renewals money on replacing assets And the same with roading, we're using NZTA funding and our own rates funding to renew roads. We're not borrowing to do either of those. We're borrowing to build new assets, which is a town hall, a library extension, a pound, Waiata house, a dog shelter, animal shelter. So the renewal of the majority of our infrastructural assets is being done from our current revenue within our rate.
But I thought there was a mismatch. Roading, which I can't remember, about 3 million.
Yeah,
2.5 million more, and I thought that was debt funded.
There is some debt funding for roading in future years in the LTP, and Nakona Road is one of those. And there is the trunk main for the water supply coming into town is a large capital project that we don't have depreciation funds for or enough, and that's debt funded. The reservoir water storage at Upper Plain is also debt funded. So there are infrastructure projects that are debt funded.
That doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't translate.
The overall increase in debt is a combination of all the capital projects that are funded by debt, and that's in the LTP.
Okay, and it's probably a slightly different question, but is it this month you give the bar confirmation?
Yes. Yes. We're expecting it close to the end of August.
Right, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Tim?
David, just at the bottom of page 104, it talks about external debt related to through water sale. There's no assumption there, is there, that there's going to be debt taken off us because those assets will be removed?
Not in any of those numbers and forward projections we've assumed. Well, we don't know for certain in the future, so we've assumed it's still all our debt. And
until it gets up to Mike.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Good manager and house council. It's one of your options. I'm not saying it's a relative growth, it's a good option, but it's, right? It's an option. Absolutely. Right. Okay, any other questions on the, how are you getting on with your finding something else in terms of replacing ANZ investments?
It's a work in progress. I had a little bit of time off, so it's been on the back burner, but just now front of mind.
I'll talk to you about South Carolina. Okay. Thank you. Right, so can I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Craig, seconded Councillor Goodwin. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. The next one is 5.2 hour rates receivable. Thank you, David.
I think it's a good news story in that the overall rates unpaid, or the rate arrears, has only increased to 86% of rates revenue. So staying under 2% is an achievement in the current economic environment. Clearly the graphs show an upward trend for that 30th of June comparison, and it's a concern, but it could have been significantly worse. So the numbers are there. The debt collection processes are being actioned. The 9 properties at the moment with legal action underway. Other figures that are in the report, rate rebates that were processed, 1,245 last year, which is an increase from the year before. We've just finished, or about to finish next week, the processing of rebates before the first instalment is due. And the numbers of people that have come in to receive their rebates are around just under 800 to get that rebate for before the first instalment, so it then reduces their rates for the rest of the year. And that's more than it was last year on that first instalment.
Much more.
Probably 10%. And that's a case of our advertising and letting people know, as well as a lot of repeat people. They know the process to come back every year, and when to come back every year. I think
those actions, is it 9 debt collection?
9 with legal action at the moment.
Workhouses or
So I can't understand your question, Councillor.
we don't have workhouses or anything homeless like that.
The workhouses.
It's a report out. No, the people are blocked up.
The ultimate outcome of a legal process is the council puts their house on the market.
You moving?
Right. Okay, any further questions? Okay, let's do the end of that. Right, we've got a recommendation there. Can I have a mover, please? I'll move. Seconded, Councillor Betts. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. 5.13, insurance update, page 118.
Again, take it as read, but the thing to note is the increases in premiums, which was significantly more than what was allowed for in the LTP year 1 budget, and what was reported to the council in the May insurance update, our expectations, and in particular is the professional indemnity premium increase and reduction in cover. So the 15 million limit of cover is a significant reduction of what we've had previously for a higher cost and also a higher excess. So a Building Act claim, we would have to pay the first 250,000 costs of that claim. Previously that number has been 50,000. So the insurers are very nervous and obviously protecting their pocket. They're prepared to offer the cover, but it comes at a much greater risk for the council to be covering costs if they occur, and we have to cover a lot more of those costs before insurance kicks in. And that's another lead into the Karen's report around the risks in the regulatory environment and the processes that the council has to ensure we are not exposed to risk, that our IANS audit is clear or all actions followed up, and that all the processes that we follow to make sure that we're not challengeable in the processing of regulatory consents.
Councillor Tom.
Wanting us to stand, Mr. Chair?
No need to stand.
Yeah, that reduction from 300 million cover to 15 million cover, is that everything or is that itemised?
That's only for claims where someone says the council did something wrong and cost me money. So it's professional indemnity. It's not buildings. It's not. The other insurance is on buildings and in earthquakes and fires and that sort of thing. This is for those professional indemnity claims where the council is accused of doing something that has caused someone some loss.
So something went to court and it was over 15 million and we were ruled against, we paid the difference.
Yes.
The community would pay the difference.
Yes.
It's all right.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Goodwin and Councillor.
Just remind me what did the insurance total insurance, the LTD go from last year to this year? What was the increase?
I haven't got that number in mind, sorry. I haven't, I don't.
Councillor Craig?
I see under 5, acknowledging that the CE will not take up additional optional professional indemnity cover if life insurance cost. From a risk point of view, is that something we need to discuss?
Thank you. Good question.
Yeah, yeah, it's certainly part of this report. It's a call.
Is it the call
of
of the CE to make, or is it the call of his employers?
My view is that CE needed to make the call to secure the insurance, right?
Yeah, it can be a call of the council noting the significant increase in premium, whether you're willing to spend another couple $100,000 for the $5 million of extra coverage. And the report essentially says that's probably not a great investment, really.
But, so my understanding is that council, because I've dealt with this elsewhere, right? If council did want to take up that offer, it's still available. Okay?
We take it after the
Well, it would be start date when you say
It would
go.
be only,
But not batch date.
If council's uncomfortable with that, then this is the time now to
speak up,
to say that you want that cover and we can spend that money, which we don't have budgeted, but we would, I suppose, yeah.
This is more of a comment, but in total due respect to David, I trust you 100% wholeheartedly, but I just find this topic extremely overwhelming. I'm not an expert in insurance, and I'm certainly not an expert in investment, and I just feel like I sit here and I listen and I take it all in and I'm none of the wiser, and actually as an elected member I just don't feel like I have the knowledge or the skill set to comment or even vote on these things or discuss them, because I'm just very out of depth, I'm just being honest, and I would love more independent advice on this, I guess. I find it really difficult to, I'm just putting my hand up there and...
It's question 4 and survey a bit later, if I'm not mistaken.
Can I just comment on that? Well, yes, absolutely, insurance is complicated, but can I just also go back to Councillor Craig's question, right? When I was David, right, for a number of years, I would just make that call and report it later, and as we improved our governance, then we actually got better at doing it. But insurance, I've done a number of these, right? I wouldn't call myself an expert in insurance, but I've got enough to be very dangerous. The issue for me is that all you're doing is you're buying someone else's money. So you're giving someone else basically somewhere between $150,000 and $170,000. If there was a claim, they'd give us $5 million. Right? Now that's the debate. The question then is, from my perspective to you, is, or to the CE, how likely is a $20 million claim versus a $15 million claim, right, in the building area, right? So basically it would be a build that you have undertaken in recent years that will cost more than $15 million.
What's the gamble, guys?
It is a gamble, right? But I think part of the problem, right? Can I just finish? Part of the problem is that we are the last man standing. Now, I have seen insurance claims successfully, claims against council, where the council they relied on an engineer, the engineer stuffed up, the engineer's liability was limited to, I can't remember the figure, it was a percentage of the fee charged. So they were liable for like $800,000. the cost to remediate is 26 million. So the council relied on the engineer, but the contract between the building owner and the council, right? No, between building owner and, so the building owner and the designer, right? Limited the liability.
Now, the council can't contract out of that liability.
No, and that's the problem. So they relied on the engineer. The engineer stuffed up, but the engineer had limitation of cover. Therefore, they were technically the last man standing.
And they get to-
We've got to cough up. And that's the problem with the system. Okay? In other countries, such as Australia, commercial buildings are actually, the council doesn't give the consent for buildings, it's the state government. Because of that risk factor. Right? So this is the Tauranga are taking, they lost a case where they relied on an engineer. The engineer didn't do their job, right? And that's, they decided to appeal that to the Court of Appeal. So that's the world we're now living in. Maybe you saw it with
The
leaky
world
pipes.
of fear. It's something bad on it.
Right.
So we're
Councillor,
living in a
yeah.
world of fear. And how does that connect to my question again?
What your risk appetite is.
Yeah,
So what is our risk appetite?
Well, would you really spend $150,000 to $170,000 of your own money to insure $5 million? Think about your own properties. I don't know if you would have that.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have that.
Yeah,
I'm just
no,
suggesting
I
that's a
wouldn't.
hang of a lot of money
Yeah.
to put out.
Per year. Per year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also, from my perspective, I think it's a waste of, and I say that carefully because let's hope there's not something happens, but that's a lot of money, a lot of hard-earned money that we would give to an insurance company just in case.
Yeah.
When we've already got
Like
really
good cover.
Yeah, well, not really good cover, we've got as much as
Councillor Tim.
So wouldn't we, like that guy or that water guy that came in, again, he talked about systems over people. Wouldn't we be better if we had our own engineer? And I know engineers cover lots of different things. But if we're going to be accountable anyway, and we had an engineer that followed our correct processes, then surely if the processes were followed correctly and they were double checked like they should be, it would never get to the point we would be in that situation, in theory.
I think processes have significantly improved in recent times. And I think we're more stringent when you look at audits through the likes of our building consent authority audits that go there too. But I think there's always, when it comes to lawyers versus lawyers or versus councils, someone's always going to have a go. And so it's about where that lands at the end of the day. You'll never be able to say there won't ever be a claim of an indemnity claim against the council. So,
And Tim, if I could just add, the cases that we've seen come through this council with the Trustlands Trust and the hospital, both sides get engineers involved and the engineers cannot agree. They'll have this view, this engineer, and this engineer will say, no, you should have built it like this. So it's all about, it gets elevated to a level where our expertise isn't relevant and we leave it to the courts to argue and the experts to argue over finer details. So the reason we take the insurance is to make sure that there's some level of cover for the eventuality where there's an argument and we lose it.
In my simplistic mind, think of every step you take in a process is a right way of doing it and a wrong way of doing it, or the correct way or the legal or the illegal way of doing it. And if you go through each step and it's checked and double checked like it should be, then in theory it should never get to the point where so at the point that you're challenged, you could say this is the two options that we had and we took the right option, so how can we be challenged? Is that just too simple a point of view?
It can be challenged. It could be you get a developer who has an engineer that compacts the land, and the engineer has coverage of $1 million or $2 million. The council seals, or they seal the road, gift the road to the council, and then the road sinks. They take $2 million if they're successful off the engineer to the developer, and the council's left, or is pursued, the remainder. So, because we may not have peer reviewed the engineer, let's just say, we might have taken our own advice. There's lots of different scenarios where we could be pursued, absolutely.
Can I also add that in terms of what the legally correct way is, it takes a court to decide what is the legally correct way. So you're having to fund all of those litigation costs in order to get to the court in the first place, and that's what the insurance also covers, the risk of those. And quite, sometimes it's actually cheaper to settle than it is to actually go to a court decision. But what we have talked about previously is, making sure that our processes are as good as they can be to minimise those risks. We're never going to be able to cover everything off, but if we can cover off everything that we can see, then that's as good as we're going to get, and no amount of insurance is going to prevent those small, avenues for people to dispute that we were wrong. And also I'd like to say that the court cases do not expose the council to all liability. They have made decisions around what council could be liable for in terms of whether there's compliance with the building code or actually going through the process. So it wouldn't be the same sort of liability, for example, as what the engineer would be exposed to. It may be limited, it may be different, but we will still have some exposure. It's not easy, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just want to reinforce the point I was trying to make before, that if we are ruled against, even if we think it's unfair or whatever, there must be learnings we can take forward. And for me, in terms of one engineer saying this and one engineer saying that, for me that's an immediate red flag, and you need to do something about it before you move forward. So, what are the steps? Have we got in place every possibility in terms of process that we can put in place to ensure we don't go down that path, is all we're asking, and can't do any more than that. But have we got it in place, is the question.
We have until the next thing comes up.
Yeah, but have we got that insurance fund, you guys, in place? And I haven't seen it in terms of, or heard it in terms of some recent past.
Yeah, we will take learnings from everything. Where things go wrong, we will try and improve it up. We will, put steps in place. But the difficulty is there's always another thing that we didn't think of and they're the ones that proceed.
But that's still a learning that we'll take into consideration next time if we're
right.
open to learning,
That's
as opposed to saying wasn't our fault, we were unfairly dealt with. I'm not saying we're saying that, but
no, and we'll do everything we can to minimise the risk of the things that we're aware of. The difficulty is the next time is that you weren't aware of it. And that's our continuous improvement process that you've heard so much about. And I was trying to automate as much as we can so that we, minimise those risks of human error or, not following that process where we haven't got it nailed.
Could I just ask Karen? Recently, we had a law go against us, and you had new learnings. But I don't know that I've been able to be privy to those learnings and what improvements we've made.
Is this in terms of recent cases that have come to light? Well, we will internally have a look at those, what those are telling us, but the information was, in front of the court to a certain degree, and like I said before, we will just take every step that we can to try and close all of those.
Just a point of clarity, there wasn't a ruling against the council.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
So we didn't have any.
No, we won't discuss that.
Okay, thank you. Right, so where are we on literally the $5 million question?
Mr. Chairman, just having really good conversation listening to this, but personally, I'm willing to move the recommendation.
Yes, Peter. Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a move and a seconder.
Yep.
No,
Maybe there's been a discussion.
Yep.
sorry?
Maybe there's been a discussion.
There's been a discussion, right?
Better understanding.
Better understanding. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. And on that note, can we have a move to move into public excluded? Councillor Tom, I'll second. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.